I had no idea I was going to dislike this album, especially since I was in the middle of exploring why so many people consider Lauryn Hill one of the greatest female rappers of all time. I went back and listened to all of her music to try and understand the hype, and to be honest, I was shocked. Not because she wasn't talented, but because of where that talent actually shows up, and where it doesn't. Her rap performances on the score, the second Fugees album, completely blew me away. She didn't just hold her own, she out-rapped her group mates. Her delivery, flow patterns, and lyrical sharpness were on full display. But what shocked me even more was that these performances are rarely the focus when people bring up Lauryn Hill's greatness as an MC. Instead, the conversation always centers around her solo debut, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. This is a shocking revelation to me because on this album, she sang on every song except for one. And when she did rap on this album, it wasn't of the same lyrical skill nor intriguing delivery that she provided on the Fugees album The Score. So I started thinking, why is she being labeled one of the greatest rappers? Then I decided to go even further back and listen to Blunted on Reality, the Fugees' first album. I figured maybe I'd uncover some hidden gems that hardcore fans just don't talk about. Spoiler alert, I understand exactly why they don't talk about it. This album is flat out terrible. Now I already know what some people will say, you weren't there when it dropped, so you don't get it. That argument is weak, because if I can listen to a project from an era I didn't live through and still enjoy it, that same logic should apply in reverse. This album doesn't hold up, not because I wasn't there, but because it's simply not good. Fugees clearly tried to emulate the aggressive, rowdy style popularized by groups like Onyx. That loud in-your-face delivery might have been trendy at the time, but here it just sounds forced and annoying. The lyrics, when you can make them out, are painfully basic. For me, this project was the breaking point. Lauryn Hill's top female MC card is officially revoked, because if you're a part of an album this bad, and your overall rap catalog is this thin, there's no way you're making the top 5 list of female rappers, especially when most of your hits are based on singing, not rapping. I'm not trying to tear Lauryn Hill down, I'm just being honest. I actually listened to the music, and this is what I've taken from it. Lauryn Hill is an incredibly gifted artist, but as a rapper, she doesn't have the consistency or volume of work to stand among the greatest. With all that said, let's get into the track-by-track breakdown of why I think Blunted on Reality is an absolute disaster. This track is a mixed bag for me. On one hand, I appreciate the ambition and energy the Fugees bring to the table, but on the other hand, their execution is just too much. The flows and deliveries come off as overly theatrical and pretentious, making it hard to enjoy. It feels like they're trying too hard to prove something, and it ends up sounding forced. That said, I do respect the animation and personality they bring to their performances. Even if the style is overwhelming, there's no denying that they're expressive and full of character. You can tell they're experimenting, even if it doesn't fully land. What really stands out though is the concept behind the song. Nappy Heads is a proud pro-black anthem that highlights cultural identity. The group leans into the term nappy in a defiant and empowering way, rapping about embracing their natural hair and shouting out historical black figures who share those same traits. The messaging is solid. It's just a shame that the delivery doesn't match the strength of the content. Choose the one to feel the pain and raise the cane. Tick-tock, I come to pick your life. It's safe with no key. It's easier than battling me, cause I'll make you walk like a donkey. The one thing I do like about this track is the hard-hitting instrumental. It has a gritty underground feel that could have carried a more focused performance. Unfortunately, the Fugees completely drown it out with their over-the-top rap styles. Their flows are sloppy, and the way they pronounce their lyrics makes it nearly impossible to understand what they're saying. The delivery is so loud and chaotic that the energy becomes more irritating than engaging. Lauryn Hill and Pras stand out for all the wrong reasons here. Their exaggerated styles make the track almost unbearable. It's one thing to be animated, but this was just incoherent noise. Honestly, their performances were so overbearing that I didn't even want to run this track back. It left a bad taste in my mouth, and it's easily one of the weakest moments on the album.
Relaxing, maxing, drinking gin on the jet, while navigating for another pirate to lose his neck check.
You're right, some start to wonder, some see lightning, some hear thunder, shades of a black.
The Fugees deliver yet another terrible performance on this track. Their unamusing, overbearing flows are pushed to the extreme here, and the result is borderline unlistenable. I honestly can't even tell what kind of rap style they're aiming for. It just sounds like they're screaming nonsense at the top of their lungs. It's chaotic, disorganized, and completely void of finesse. When I can make out the lyrics, they're painfully basic, like something written by an elementary school student. It's hard to believe this is the same group that went on to make The Score, where their flows were sharp, cohesive, and refined. refined. The contrast is so drastic, it feels like I'm listening to an entirely different group. This track just adds to my growing disappointment with the album. While listening to this album, I truly hope that this over-the-top, incoherent style didn't continue for the rest of the project, because it dragged down what could have at least been an interesting debut.
666 that makes you my adversary, so I watch my back and hope when I don't get text.
Give the gap, monkey see, monkey what? Monkey be yourself. Monkey see, monkey what? Monkey.
The vocals on this track, like much of the album so far, are honestly giving me a headache. Wyclef Jean is by far the most amped member here, and his vocals are extremely loud and overbearing. Sure, it sounds like he's having a great time recording, but that energy doesn't translate into a great listening experience. His overly animated delivery ends up influencing the other members, and not in a good way. That said, there are a couple positives. I really like the instrumental. It's smooth, laid back, and has a chilled vibe that feels refreshing compared to the rest of the project. Unfortunately, that calm production clashes hard with the Fugees' aggressive vocal performances. I also appreciate the concept behind Lauryn Hill's verse, where she reflects on the lack of respect she receives from men in her neighborhood, especially black men. It's a thoughtful subject, but her delivery and lyrics don't do it justice. Like the rest of the group, she leans into that same over-the-top rap style that's weighed down the whole project. Pras has the same issues: too much energy, not enough substance. While the instrumental and concept bring some value, the Fugees' overambitious styles continue to get in their own way. It's not a terrible track, but it's definitely hard to enjoy.
Brother, my brother, you played me undercover. She wouldn't be your lover, so now you're
Sun right forward, sun right backward. I wait for them to get dizzy, then count them in reverse, yo. With the verse.
This is yet another unbearable listen from the Fugees on this album. The track is overloaded with loud, shouty vocals that sound more like chaotic noise than actual rapping. Once again, the lyrics are hard to make out and come across as random gibberish with no real structure or substance. To give some credit, the instrumental is actually solid, it has a nice bounce to it, and the repeated chant of Boof Baf is mildly catchy, but that's about where the positives end. The same unamusing elements that have plagued most of this album, overblown delivery, incoherent flows, and shallow lyrics, are all front and center here. Overall, this song is just another example of the Fugees' early style working against them rather than in their favor.
3-4 bashing over before the track miss. How far you must I go to act this status? Delivered straight from the temple. Hip hop, you don't stop. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
This is yet another track where the Fugees managed to give me a headache. What really stands out here is Lauryn Hill's performance, and not in a good way. She opens the track with a verse that features an unappealing all over the place flow. Her style on this song feels like a strange fusion of MC Lyte and Left Eye from TLC, which are clearly influences you can hear in her tone and delivery. I'll give her credit for attempting something different. There's versatility there, but the execution falls flat. What's even more surprising is how basic her lyrics are on this track. Compared to her performance on the score, it's a major step down. This has me seriously questioning her placement among the all-time great female MCs, because if we're basing it on her rap skills here, it's just not adding up. Wyclef and Pras don't help either. They continue with the same overbearing and unamusing rap styles that have plagued this album. While their performances here aren't quite as bad as earlier tracks, they're still not good. The one thing that prevents this from being a complete disaster is the instrumental. It has a laid-back, almost tropical feel that's smooth and easy on the ears, completely at odds with the vocal chaos on top of it. This could have been something much better with more refined performances.
Well, as an infant, I was born into religion. My mama called me Baptist, but she forgot to.
Wait a second, draw back, better till I come. Stick a pistol, tuck me up, they took my coat with a stun gun on a Sunday.
At this point in the album, I'm starting to realize that the Fugees' sound on this project might have appealed to a specific crowd at the time. The music feels like it was made for mosh pit style hype. That might explain the aggressive energy and wild vocal delivery. Even with that context though, I still find their performances unamusing, and this track is no exception. The over-the-top energy, chaotic flows, and hard to decipher lyrics continue to weigh down the listening experience. That said, I'll give them credit for being animated and expressive in their flows. They experiment with voice inflections and even include a bit of a comedic edge, which adds some personality. But despite these attempts at creativity, the delivery is still rough and the lyrics are barely intelligible, which continues to be a major flaw throughout this project.
Put the gas back, or the mic go on blast, cause I'm doing this fantastic, all the jump for the cast.
Check the cripple man sitting in the church. My conscience hurts, flesh like me hits the dirt.
This is a solo Lauryn Hill track, and it's definitely interesting to hear her rapping during her early years. Her style here is very unorthodox, animated and full of energy, but ultimately it doesn't land for me. The flow feels all over the place, and her pronunciation is so exaggerated at times that it starts to sound like gibberish. There are moments where she does manage to ride the beat well, and I do like the smooth, mellow instrumental. It creates a nice contrast to her chaotic delivery. Still, those few bright spots aren't enough to carry the track. Conceptually, this is one of the deeper cuts on the album. Lauryn reflects on people chasing fame, only to lose themselves once they attain it. It's a message that holds weight, and I respect the subject matter. But even with a strong concept, the execution just isn't appealing enough to make this track stand out in a good way.
Rocket's kinda new to me, cause my true love was poetry. White was good and bad was black, but black was us.
Something funny, something got you caught up like this. This man you wanna pick with today to make fun of, oh yeah.
I honestly can't believe there's a song on this album that I actually enjoy. After sitting through so many tracks filled with unamusing and overwhelming styles, this one caught me completely off guard. Even more surprising is that the highlight here comes from Pras. On this track, Pras delivers a more mellowed out flow that still maintains a sense of energy. It strikes a good balance, and for once, his vocals don't sound like he's shouting over the beat. His performance blends nicely with the upbeat, energetic instrumental, making the track feel cohesive rather than chaotic. What this track made clear to me is that the Fugees style itself isn't necessarily the problem, it's how far they push it. When they're not trying to scream their verses into the mic, their unique flair can actually work in their favor. Giggles is a perfect example of that. It's animated, but not over the top, and it finally gives us a glimpse of what this group could have sounded like with better control and restraint.
Now you wanna be down, you come around. Touchdown of the town, you're gonna dig my sound. H to the A to the I to the T to the I live or die. It's nothing but a dark side.
This is yet another example of the Fugees' overall style just not clicking for me. While I can acknowledge the creativity in their flows, the way they animate their delivery and switch up their voices, it still feels overly ambitious and frankly unappealing. The execution doesn't match the intention, and the exaggerated delivery continues to weigh the track down. That said, I do like the concept behind this one. The group embraces the identity of being refugees, which ties into their Haitian heritage and immigrant backgrounds. They use this track to represent where they're from and what they stand for, and that's something I can respect. It gives the song a cultural and personal weight that's been missing from a lot of the album. Even though the performances don't fully work for me, the concept and pride in their roots bring some redeeming value to the track.
Well, I'm a Fugees on the mic, yo, check it coming from my temple. For the message, deliver, put it back.
Hey yo, people, you're living like there ain't no tomorrow. You get caught in the terror, a Sodom and Gomorrah.
I like the concept here. Wyclef Jean dives into the idea of living life like there's no tomorrow, which gives the track a reflective edge. The laid-back, smooth instrumental is catchy and easy to vibe with. Wyclef's performance is once again creatively unorthodox, and while that's commendable, his flow becomes noticeably irritating on repeat listens. It starts off intriguing, but quickly wears thin by the second run-through.
Balang 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 to the man in Rikers Island. If you live by the sun, you go fi die by the gun. Cause all guys.
This remix brings an entirely different vibe from the original version, and it's a noticeable shift in tone. The instrumental is much more laid back, and the Fugees' vocal deliveries follow suit, toned down compared to the overwhelming intensity found on earlier tracks. That said, there are still some hyped up elements due to their naturally unorthodox and animated styles. Even when they dial it back, the energy never fully disappears, which can still feel a bit chaotic at times. I'll continue to give them credit for the creativity in their flows. There's personality and uniqueness in how they approach a beat, but overall, their performances still feel scattered and unrefined. The remix is a definite improvement from the original, but it still suffers from the same lack of control that's been a recurring issue throughout the album.
Hey, yo, a battle is a battle, but a battle's not a battle if it's snake doesn't rattle.
After sitting through Blunted on Reality from beginning to end, I can honestly say this album was a tough listen. The Fugees' over-the-top, unrefined style dominates almost every track, and while there are flashes of potential, particularly in the creativity of their flows or a few solid instrumentals, it's buried under chaotic deliveries, incoherent lyrics, and performances that feel more like a headache than music. What shocks me most is how far this early sound is from what they would go on to deliver with the score, which is polished, cohesive, and genuinely impressive. impressive. It's hard to believe this is even the same group, and as much as I respect Lauryn Hill's legacy, her performances on this project were disappointing and make me question how often people truly revisit this part of her rap catalog. I'm not here to disrespect the Fugees or what they represent, but if we're talking strictly music, Blunted on Reality is not it. If this album didn't have the name Fugees attached to it, I doubt it would be remembered at all.